welcome to the Community Town Hall Smart Gamer Live. I have Puka, Zeb, Malice, and Poison Taco with me today. Hi, gents.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Ah. So, a few new things on screen. If I can talk correctly, my tongue's going to be all tied up in a knot. Below Puka, there is a... Yes, well, besides the beard, we have a stream boss that gets beaten up by following, subbing, donating, all that kind of good stuff. And then to my right, or I guess left, this way, there's a beer mug. If you guys can fill that up, then Malice will stop drinking beer.
Unlikely.
Wow.
Unlikely that it'll fill up, or unlikely
We're
that he'll
doing
stop.
miracles now?
Yes.
We're
I believe
trying.
yes is the answer to both of that.
So today we're going to talk about SWTOR and Chronicles of Elyria. We can start with SWTOR since that kind of has the more content that's out. Lovely game came out in 2011, and now they are getting a new massive update that will revamp how they do loot with the system. Anybody have a strong opinion? Want to start?
It has excellent backgrounds. Writing is fantastic. Um, Unfortunately, the game suffered in its popularity because the first 6 months were chaos for development of the game, and people felt like they were paying subs for nothing. They got their act together shortly afterwards, about I would say a year and a half, and they started producing content and experimenting with their format. I really liked the game. I played it on and off for about 4 years, 5 years in total. Uh, I have no bad times. I have no complaints about it. I wish the PvP was not so damn reliant on hotball, which I suck at. But
Oh man, I was so good at Hotball.
So, since the beginnings, the PvP has changed quite a bit. It's not very much reliant on hutball anymore. Now, when you queue up for PvP, you can get put into like a point capture, a capture the flag scenario. There's sudden death matches. In fact, I actually very rarely get hutball when I do PvP. It seems to be some of the others are a bit more in your face about what they're doing PvP style. So you might check that out again. Stuff has changed.
I will. I will.
And an
I have
interesting
subbed.
an interesting note to your comment about development. They had 12 full-time writers that worked for 3 years on that game. That's how much BioWare saw this as their thing. This is what they were going to.
I think it showed because if you can commend that title for anything at launch and now, is no other MMO that I have ever experienced had as rock solid of a story than SWTOR. And that's, I mean, I know some were stronger than others, but that for the most part across all the class lines, the story was just awesome, and for a lot of people that was
Imperial Agent for the win. Best story ever.
definitely
Made you feel like evil James Bond. Awesome.
or good James Bond.
So
Or
to give
just
people a
James Bond.
reference in regards to your guys' comments within this particular conversation, Puka, when's the last time you played SWTOR?
Ooh, I have not played since we stopped after launch. So we played for about 4 months after launch.
Did you play pre-launch? Were
Yes.
you in that group? Okay.
Yeah. So I played for about 5 months at launch. Quite a few of us went back to it. I just wasn't one of them.
Gotcha.
I was of the majority of people that kind of got burnt out by Endgame, where it was like, well, once you've made an alt of every character and experienced all the different stories, whatever that open world PvP that was completely broken and never worked, that world, I forget the name of it. It just burnt a lot of us.
Yeah, that was an amazing failure.
Oh yeah, but it's. I hear a lot of these things have improved.
Yes.
But
Poison Taco, when's the last time you played?
About 2 or 3 months ago, actually.
Okay, have you been playing regularly since
A few of my
launch?
guys and I were bored, and we're just a couple times actually we've tried to revisit SWTOR. Problem is sometimes it's hard to commit to, and a lot of people get really turned off by the fact that you have to pay to do anything fun.
Okay, we'll get into that in a few minutes here. I'm sure.
Um, and I was in closed beta, so I was in for about 6 months before the game came out. And let's just say there were some questionable things that BioWare did that about 3 months after the game came out, and I was sitting there tanking a raid, and we just went through endless bugs just trying to get through that raid. Then this is 3 months after release, nothing had been fixed, and I'm going, wait a minute, I'm paying $15 a month for this?
Okay. Malice, last time you played?
Last night.
Okay. Obviously, you have not been playing religiously since launch.
No, I have not. I played. I was in on the early Friends and Family at Alpha, so I played the game for a little over a year before it launched. It was definitely a different beast before what you see now, or what it was when it launched. I played it then with the guild for about a year, and we got so ticked off at the fact that every new piece of content, every dungeon was basically, oh, the boss is invisible. Oh, the boss didn't drop loot. Oh, the boss is invisible and didn't drop loot. Oh, oh, look, we're going to put out a new boss. Oh, I walk into the room, I fall to my death because apparently I tripped over the door frame. Yeah,
Hey man, door frame boss.
Yeah, I would die regularly. There was
You still do.
in one of the main dungeons, we used to call it the elevator boss. You just fall through the elevator when it decided to move. That'd kill you all the time. And you're in a raid, so like your buffs, you've got buffs up, you've got everything else.
You don't got time to keep dying.
Right. Especially stupid crap. You get frustrated enough dying on an actual boss fight. You don't want to really die because you're glitching through the walls and everything like that. As Puka mentioned, the wonderful. Well, look, we have open world. No, we don't. We turned it off. It was exploited. Hey, look, we figured it out.
What was that? What was that world called?
Was it Ilum?
Ilum.
It was Ilum.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, look, we got our shit together. We figured it out. Open for 3 days. Shut back down for exploiting. Like, all right.
All right. We'll get more into that in a minute. Zeb, when's the last time you played?
Last week.
Last week. Have you been playing constantly since launch, or when did you first start playing?
I played during beta, and I experienced a very smooth launch with my little Malgus statue sitting by my side like a patron saint of evil. So
I should go grab mine. I got one too.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a great package. I loved it, but
Never learned.
It was
Warhammer Collector's Edition. You never learn.
never.
There's
Proudly
I have
dumb.
3 Warhammers Collector's Edition sitting over there on my shelf. Thank you very much.
So Zeb, how long did you play for before you kind of stopped?
About 2 years, and then I gave up the Ghost.
All right.
I just didn't like the way development was heading.
Fair enough. So for me, I played back at the beginning. Accounts got screwed up. You all probably have founder titles. I unfortunately don't, and lots of my friends like to poke me with that. Yes, thank you. Even though I should. Played the game for quite a while, took many breaks, and always would go back to it. That's kind of my go-back game. It is still considered by many as quintessential Star Wars. It is got some of the best lore, some of the best writing, and you all can debate me on that, but I agree with Puka. I think it is the best writing of any MMO as far as storylines and whatnot that is currently out there.
It's better than anything Disney's putting out, that's for sure.
Well, Disney's basically cutting the legs out from under a lot of stuff, so.
Well, I think what was also important was how they delivered the writing, right? Because you look at a game like ESO, where one of the biggest complaints was like, you guys wasted time to voice act every quest NPC. And everyone walks up to him, they're like, next. Come on, I don't want to hear it. Tell me, give me the icon. It's like they at least understood that these are MMO players. If we don't stop them and force them to watch the cutscene, force them to do the like mid-decision interaction,
Turns into WoW.
they had it correct. Like if it's like, give me the quest, I want to go. Like they're gonna do what players do. If you want to give them a story, you have to stop the vehicle. You got to be like, all right, we're going to deliver you some story. You have to endure this.
Interestingly enough, they got into the Guinness Book of World Records for the most voiceovers in any MMO.
SWTOR or
SWTOR.
Yeah, okay. I would have said that ESO had that, but that's interesting.
That's fitting because EA just got into the Guinness Book of World Records for another reason.
Yeah, they did.
Sucking horribly.
The
most pissed off players ever.
Most hated, what was it, Twitter or YouTube comment? What was
Reddit.
that comment? Reddit? Okay.
Reddit.
Yeah, that was awesome. Just good job.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Oh, yeah.
Good job, EA.
Okay, so within SWTOR...
Surprise, bitches.
So
Keep up the good work, EA.
So one of the reasons why SWTOR has as much voice acting as it does is you have not only okay, here is the content like ESO, but now I have light side, dark side, middle commentary, and you can take quests and the quest chains. If you look at them on a dev screen, they are vastly complex and wander off into oblivion. It's really an amazingly well done quest chain system on how they push their story forward. So that's what makes it have so much voiceover. Is every quest is done 2 to 3 times from different perspectives.
Yeah, and because of that, again, I think what was important to note is, yes, you could spacebar through the cutscenes and to quickly hop them forward, but people, at least the first time, didn't. They wanted to watch and they wanted to make those selections because those selections affected your character. And that was it's genius way of delivering a story where, again, you have the same thing in ESO. It's like, we have the same, you could sit there and listen to the NPC, like they'll give you all the quests, but they're like, you don't care. I don't have any choice in this. It doesn't matter. You're just reading a story to me. I don't want it. Come on, tell me where the marker is.
Well, and I think it ups what Malice was saying, it ups the playability too. So you can go back and listen to that stuff again because you can make different decisions.
Yep. It was a genius move. It was awesome.
It's very much a stolen out of the Japanese video game book of basically, because the dating video games and stuff like that, where you can make infinite amount of choices and try to interact with different characters.
Weeaboo alarm. Where is it?
Weeaboo, weeaboo, weeaboo,
weeaboo.
Okay, so you guys have all played. Sorry, Malice, go ahead.
But it's true. It's where the model came from.
It's the JRPG model. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've all played
games like Valkyrie and that sort of thing.
Back at the beginning, tell me, what was it like for the life of a guild within the game back when it first launched? Now, I'm not talking before launch, because obviously stuff can be screwy then. I'm talking after launch for those of you that played more than, okay, this shit sucks.
It was very hopeful. Basically, you had 2 choices. You could be strictly content crushers, trying to do it faster, better, smarter, that sort of thing, or you could go role play. And I think a lot of people did one and then the other, or then vice versa, because the role play is very strong in that game, unlike other games that pretend they have role play, and you end up seeing people ERP, and that's awful.
Okay, but I'm talking about the structure in place for guilds that they gave for GMs to handle their guilds.
We had guild vaults, which was nice. We had it was basic but clean system.
Basic.
Very similar to World of Warcraft. I mean, about as polished as WoW at the time.
Right. But I mean, from a system, it didn't have as many layers as it does now. Now they have guild leveling and all the other stuff like that. Previous to that, it was it was pretty basic as far as a presentation goes for guild system, but there was nothing I would say uniquely wrong with it. It offered up all the services you really needed. It was nice to have. It's nice that they took and expanded it and got into some more concepts and ideas to make the guilds and the communities a little more interesting. But
Okay, and then now, since last Christmas, they have basically gutted the whole guild system and completely redid it. Now, Malice, you've been in. Poka, sorry, you're kind of out on this one. Zeb, you resub. Did you log in and look at anything?
I'm not in a guild at the moment, so
Okay.
I cannot see.
So, Malice, would you say that the new revamp is better, or is it just more bells and whistles, shiny things that don't really matter?
Mostly bells and whistles, but I think that overall it's it gives you all the depth and tools that you need, and it has some cool, interesting guild experiences. Like I like the there's now basically guild missions and guild quests that allow you to give you a reason to go, grind or do whatever, so that you can earn conquest points and further your guild conquests on objectives, which is always interesting and always entertaining. Even if it doesn't, especially for a smaller guild, doesn't really have a grand impact on anything. It's cool to know that you can, it's kind of like the little mini boss we got going over here at Smart Gamer. It's a cool target to play with, and it motivates to keep you rewarded for your actions instead of just sitting out in the field and, as they say, killing in the field of bears.
So, PvP, I know you all love PvP. Tell me about how wonderful or not PvP was back in the day.
Let's play hot ball.
Don't kick it.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't kick the hut ball, or the huts will kill you. Well,
Oh, man.
Come on, you rotworms, kill them!
So
Yeah,
speaking
rock
of
war.
football, you get if you weren't in closed beta, you didn't get this, but they had battlegrounds up to 12 players per team, which made hut ball very interesting.
12-player hut ball.
Well, it's 24-player hut ball. Yeah, 12 per team.
What was it at live?
I think 8.
Yeah, it's 8.
4-on-4?
No,
Eight
no.
on eight.
8-on-8. Okay, I was about to say it was
Yeah.
way bigger 4-on-4.
Well, then they came out
Okay.
with Galactic Starfighter, which was another form of PvP that was a 12 versus 12 thing. So it sounds like they kind of had a hard-on for that 12v12 area.
So I played in closed beta, and I had a group of like 3 or 4 of the people I did closed beta with, and they ended up joining my community and guild. And so we kind of, by the time SWTOR came out, we had already made multiple level 50s. We'd even done some of the storylines as they were implemented. And so when the game was live, we knew all of the tricks, and how to coordinate everything. And it was a good time.
Malice, I know you've been pretty vocal about their PvP in the past and how they didn't have certain safeguards in place to protect it. What was it you did not like about the PvP back in the day?
Well, originally, hi Gabe. He's the guy who wrote all the PvP for the game. I'm not exactly sure what was all the balls that were dropped on that Ilum fight, but once it moved away from that, pretty much all you were left with was the occasional open world fight, which by design you weren't really designed to interact with each other on a planet. Like the Republic and the Imperials were really off doing their own thing, and their quests didn't really cross. They didn't have a lot of reason to fight
We
each
had
other.
a small little area of
Yeah,
clash, but nobody did it.
and then of course, as we mentioned, Hutball. But they finally had fixed that near when I was leaving, where they would start cycling in other stuff, which was good. But canned PvP is, well, just that. Granted, it was what we ground because that's what we would get all the best armor. It basically allowed you to gear up so that you could make sure that you could do the raid content and get the raid gear. Other than that, though, I just felt that it was a missed opportunity in many ways.
So they currently.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all you do.
Well, I was just saying, our biggest gripe is Huttball just became extremely repetitive, but it was the one thing that at least mechanically was functional as far as PvP. We loved Ilum, we loved the idea of Ilum, but when the rubber hit the road in Ilum, it just mechanically ceased to work. And there was no getting around that. It's like it just did not function. The premise was wonderful. The idea was it drew us there, but like it just didn't function. And so PvP ended up like World of Warcraft Battlegrounds, where you're just like, let's do it again. Like we're doing Huttball again. And it's
Rushing
like
to the end.
It's not that it's. I mean, yeah, it's like Huttball was fun. Huttball was exciting. It was still fun, but that's all. There was nothing else.
Well, and the problem is people got so bored with it that it started exploiting because people started just speed hacking across the zones, and nobody couldn't do anything about it.
Nobody was a fan of those key classes that had the leaps that you could never get away from, or if they did get the ball, they were halfway across the map. And it's like, well, can't catch this guy, And yeah, it was. There were two classes that were good at Huttball. Around the bush. Two classes, one Huttball every game, and it's like you were either that class or you weren't. And that's how it felt. So
really, what? Please tell me, enlighten me on the two classes.
What was it? The Juggernaut one for Sith.
Okay,
there's Juggernaut one. And Sorcerers.
Yeah, Juggernaut Guardian.
Oh, see, we played
those
heavy agents and bounty hunters, and we would just control the middle of the field by grapple pulling everybody all day. Yeah. Oh, you're super fast? No, come here, and we're going to just beat you down. Thank you.
So with the current content that's out there, they actually have a whole new world for questing, and I think they've probably learned from that mistake of Ilum back in the day, where you actually have both sides questing in the same area, which leads to some pretty nasty world PvP where you just can't get anything done. Is that really sweet tea?
Yes.
There you go, Mr. Fallen Angel. That was really sweet tea.
My favorite part of the world PvP.
It's like advertising, sweet tea.
My favorite part of the world PvP is, since I played Republic at first, you would show up to the PvP world and you're like, oh, hey, I'm going to go PvP. Let's go, guys. You take the bike, you're like, I'm going to go PvP, and you land there, and there's 50 red names waiting to murder you. You're like, oh, hi, guys, and you die.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I could say I was on the opposite end of that, where it was just like, lightning! And it was the best, like, just zap everybody. That part, like, it was fun.
I think the faction imbalance was like one of the worst things about the Old Republic at launch. And I can just speak to the fact that it seems like they put way more effort into the Empire rather than the Republic. Granted, like I'm not talking about like the stories or anything, because the Republic classes have some really good stories too. But for example, the station that you go to at level 10, the Empire one was well lit, it was well furnished and whatever. But then you went to the Republic one, it was basically empty. It had like this disgusting haze and yellow light, and it was just ugly.
They're on the run, man. Times are tough.
Still,
Empire, we have quality of life, we have creature comforts.
And for example,
and still no OSHA.
So they fixed this now. Like today, it's not an issue, but at release, for like another example is you could go to like the capital planets. You compare Coruscant to Dromund Kaas. In every MMO, you get that mission to kill that one guy, right? That named NPC you need to kill. And usually in an MMO, you have to tag him first. And if you're part of that leveling game, someone else will take him out before you do, and you have to wait for him to respawn, right? The Empire players, for their equivalent to those quests, would have a button to summon the NPC they needed to kill. The Republic players wouldn't, and they'd have to, wait for the guy to respawn. That's like the kind of polish I'm talking about. And I'm not talking like there's like this big drastic change between the Republic and the Empire, but it's like all these little things that add up to show that the Empire was given a lot more care and attention than the Republic.
Well, sorry, go ahead. Well, I was going to say it's obvious that they didn't spin up in testing, and I think it's very important for any MMO to, like, at least take, if you can grab, like in a beta, and you can cram several thousand people into a startup area on a server, assuming you have phasing. So however many, let's say it's 100, 200 people into a visible quest area, and let them naturally progress and just see what challenges happen. How do mob respawns react? Where are the choke points? It's obvious that they didn't run that through in these different areas, right? Like they didn't do a beta test where they spooled up people at level 30 and ran them through some quest hubs to see how they react with these different choke points.
Mostly alpha and beta was just playing the game.
Mm-hmm. It was just open, like do what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was in many ways a problem that you didn't get that stress testing in certain content. But I'll even go that step farther. One of the flaws that I ran into, because I've played all the classes, the end result was that the Republic is very vanilla flavored. Like it's the good guys, the classic good guy, and the classic good guy story is all about his foil. And the Empire is the foil. So it's a lot easier to write when you're talking about writing about the story of falling to darkness, or the story of climbing out of darkness to for redemption. But like that's not the stories you really get when playing the Republic. You're like, well, I'm kind of a dirty cop, or I'm just a cop. I mean, that's
it was
what a lot of the story.
It was like watching a whole bunch of lawful good paladins walk around, and maybe they turned a blind eye and let something happen. They themselves were never doing the dirty work. They were just like, sorry.
Oh, not if you were a Jedi Knight. Oh man, Dark Jedi Knight was hilarious.
Oh yeah, because you're just like, nope. I totally didn't see anything. Those guys totally didn't burn to death while I was over here checking my shoe. I mean,
no. So the way I equate it is, you got Sith if you want to be evil. Being a Dark Jedi, you're not really evil. You're just a giant dick, and it's hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah, but being a good light side Sith is equally hysterical because people literally go insane because you don't do what they think you're going to do.
That's the same thing with Dark Jedi.
It's just the way they wrote all that stuff was.
For one amazing example, this is my favorite quest in the game. You only unlock it with one choice on the Jedi Knight, and if you miss it, you don't get it. And I know in the closed beta, it actually gave you a purple lightsaber, and I loved it. And then they changed it for live, and I absolutely hated BioWare for changing that. It was on Terrace, and you get sent because the main bad guy from Terrace is like, oh, I'll distract you with this shiny thing. Go there while I do my bad stuff. And of course you're a dick, so you're like, yeah, sure, why not? And so you basically go down to this this temple or whatever, these ruins where they're uncovering this artifact, and you meet a Sith there. You mind trick the Sith into giving you his lightsaber, and then you kill him with it. And then all the other pirates that are there are like, whoa, this guy's crazy. I'm just getting the hell out of here.
If only you could actually mind trick another Force user. Right?
Yeah. So one of the core issues, and I'm going to kind of switch the subject from some of that story overview, and it's what I think was the greatest detriment. Puka was kind of touching on it of how to do testing, is that we spent a year plus testing this game. We had a crafting system that worked well. We had content that worked well. And then the last month of testing, they pretty much shut it down and they're like, oh, there's going to be new stuff. And the game launched where everything was centralized in the space station and all of this. They changed a lot of how things were done. They changed the
Yeah.
whole entire crafting system and none of it was tested. That's not how you build a game.
Well,
You don't do a
my
year of
understanding,
development for that.
my understanding is they were going to be pulling a lot of Star Wars Galaxy style systems in, or as many as they could. Obviously, it wasn't a sandbox game, but they were going to be pulling a lot of those systems, and then that got changed at the last minute. And so these systems were being developed, especially with things around crafting, and then that change happened kind of last minute. And yeah, a lot of things were implemented untested.
So new content patch coming out in October. New world, new PvP zone, new class you can play if you like to be a squid with the flowing tentacles. You can do that.
Your new race, yeah. Not class.
Can only imagine the ERP that will hit the servers now with that out. That will be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Seb.
Cthulhu hentai porn.
There you go. And they're striking the loot system completely and going to an RNG loot system. Thoughts?
Oh, to move away from the need greed system?
Basically, in everything that you do, whether you are questing, whether you are just grinding mob because you're a Chinese gold farmer. Yes, damn Skippy 96. Somebody did say hentai.
That triggered the weeboo alarm. Remember that.
Whether you're on an operation or you're in a flashpoint or you're PvPing, loot is going to drop. They want to make it a system where you're going to be so overwhelmed with the amount of loot coming at you, but you have to then build the loot that you get up. And they're including a whole new slot for loot, which will essentially allow you to make your character completely different. And again, the example they give is if you're a lightning sork and you want your chain lightning to affect more players, you can do that. If you want it to just affect one player and do more damage, then you can equip a thing that will alter it to do that. If you're a tank
So you're talking about like augments?
Yes.
Yeah,
But
it's like
beyond what's
augments
currently in
or-
the system.
Well, like you got like augments like ESO where you actually have augmented abilities,
Yeah.
or in Arcage where you have ancestral abilities.
So
Like
these are equipable items, I'm gathering. That
This is
like,
a whole
you can
new gear
equip
slot. Yep.
Yeah. So for each ability, you have this gear slot that basically is an augment.
No, your
Several
character
abilities?
has
one
like
cookie.
I forget what they call it. It's like a tactical gear slot, and it will apply
Okay.
to one thing.
it'll be its personal flourish, as it were.
Yeah. Any created point of further customization is awesome. You know, that's just always a good thing in my opinion. So long as a lot of these things are not easily acquired, but the difficulty at which they are
Availability.
acquired. Well, the difficulty at which they are acquired is proportional to the benefit they give. You know, because again, what sucks with those things is when there's one that rises to the top as the obvious meta choice, and it's also one that only a select few can get a hold of, and then now you've created a power gap. You know, where you're like, okay, my chain lightning can hit 2 targets, and you're like, well, this one's clearly better, and everyone gets it, but you had to do like blank, like this is a random drop off of some like end raid boss or something, and now these people have this, and now they're taking it to PvP, and they're just better, and maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. It doesn't matter. They're better, and you deal with it. That's no fun a lot of times.
Damn Skippy asked, is this going to be for top level characters, or what level does it become available? I don't know that they have specified. Given that it is a completely new slot for characters, one would think that it's just available for everyone, and then as you level up and get better items, the stats on it might be a little bit better. We don't know. So, but they've got another thing where they're saying you can actually take the pieces of armor that you get and upgrade them to make them better. And this is their way of trying to reset the economy within the games.
Meow.
Hi, Narth. So one of the
That's
things
usually
right
true.
now, you log into any of the servers and you go to their auction house. A simple thing is 4 to 5 million credits. That's just how
Yeah.
expensive stuff is, and they're going to try to reset the economy by
Uh,
forcing you to spend credits on items.
See, personally, I think what they need to do is just hack zeros off their freaking their
Yep.
money, because that's the
How you do it.
stupidest thing. That like you now go to a quest, it's like, oh, every quest gives me like 11,000 credits. Everything, oh, every mob gives me 800 credits for killing it. Like, and so sure, obviously you have to. The price is going to be proportional to the availability of money. And so if you make everyone running around as a billionaire, well, then yeah, everything's going to cost millions of credits. Why run an economy that way? That's silly.
It's inflation, and real world economies despise it because it
Right.
devalues the work you do. And it's the
Exactly.
same. It's the
Well,
same concept.
it
Go
devalues the
ahead.
work you do so long as pay is not proportional, right?
Pay
But
is
if
never
everything,
proportional to inflation.
well, it depends on what they are increasing because the inflation happened generally because they increase quest rewards and those go up or they increase drop rates. I mean, that's your pay in an MMO, quest rewards, drop rate, stuff like that,
Right.
to entice you to do new content, right? Like that's the
Well,
lure in the first place.
the real problem in economies, in game economies, though, is not as much what goes on among the top members, but new players. It becomes a barrier of entry because now I can't afford anything. I'll use World of Warcraft as a perfect example of this. So the little cotton, the second piece of cloth, became the most rare item because not enough people were leveling to collect those items, and
Was that
so
linen? No,
yeah,
not
no, linen was the first one, and there was
wool.
cotton
Wool.
was the second, and
Linen wool.
okay, well,
Been stuck up a dirt. Go.
right. So end result though is that now those were selling for a gold or more a hit, and a starting player was like, I need 5 for a quest. I can't afford these. Like, and that becomes horrible when it is, I want to start crafting because I'm level 10. Well, you can't. Suck it up because the second tier material is out of your reach
Suck it up,
financially.
Buttercup.
Right. And that's what inflation really hurts is your barrier of entry for new players. And
But
that's what will scare off new players.
but I actually think that that's a working economy. When you have scarcity in items, and then you value that as a higher tier, then you get people moving in to do that. That's a working economy going on.
Sure, but what he's saying is people aren't moving in to do that, and that's what created that scarcity in the first place.
That's on the player base, not realizing an opportunity.
Well,
Well,
hanging in mid level, like in your like level 10 to 15 range, just to farm wool is like, I don't know.
yeah,
It seems
ultimately
like,
the problem is like it's there isn't enough. Like the higher level players can make more money doing something else than going back
right.
and farming wool. And the point is the only people that need wool are the people trying to level through that. And the people that need it are also the people that can't afford it. And that's the real problem. Um, and so essentially the only way to really avoid that would be to cause like things to drop based upon need and not based upon what's pre-generated on a mob.
So, do you guys think that a developer can effectively reset the economy within their games?
They can always do that.
Ow.
They can always do that.
The how is how do you do it without pissing players off? I mean, there's
Yeah,
your
there's that's no way. That's no way. Once a player base is set on a certain economic model, they're going to be set on the economic model no matter what. No matter
no, it
if
can
it's an
always be
improvement.
changed. I mean, you've
No,
seen
no.
WoW reset their own economy 4 or 5 times throughout
But
the
that's
expansion.
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. The developer.
Well,
always
every one of their expansions resets their whole entire game.
So,
Well,
at least in
what they-
regards to crafting materials becoming more scarce, because obviously people aren't in the leveling zones to get them. One thing that Guild Wars 2 did is they put when they put in the ascended items, I believe in order to craft the ascended items, you needed a combination of the lower tier stuff as well as
Yeah.
the higher tier stuff.
And they created a need for everything.
Well, also
Which-
Guild Wars 2 had the smartest auction house system ever created. So,
but it's
anything-
not just the auction house. It is also the what the Mystic Forge, or I call it the Mystic Toilet, where you have systems where people will just flush away items like nothing.
Yep.
So
That became the problem, though, is that usually economies don't drive so much on junk items. They're either top tier items or they're resources to make top tier items,
Or reusables.
or reusables, right? Potions and things.
Potions and things like that.
But see, I would say that in cases like Star Wars, where you have a game that's primarily RPers that like to play, a lot of the cosmetic items is really what's driving that market.
Well,
It depends on the. Go ahead, Puka.
Well, so I was going to say again, and Tucker brought up a great point. It's if you want to ensure that required materials throughout your hierarchy of your crafting tier remain necessary, then you always need to require them for the final ingredient. That is truly the only way of doing it. If you want to make sure there doesn't become a wool disparity in your tailoring progression, then you have to make the highest tier craftable gear require something that requires a little bit of wool. So you've got to make it so that the people at the highest end are still going after this stuff, even if you lock that in a lower level zone. And like you said, with ascending gear,
WoW's other problem, though, is that they didn't. It was the one source of material that was not obvious to farm.
sure,
Like everything else was, oh, I know I can farm these mobs for silk.
cloth has always been a weird spot.
Yep.
Well, it's wool specifically because there's the dungeon in Stormwind. What was that? That was the only place that was worth it. The stockades. That was the only place that was worth it. Period. And nobody wanted to do it. It's just, but that's a specific instance.
Problem with SWTOR's economy is that the items, once you acquire them, never degrade to a certain point. They degrade, but it's so slow it doesn't matter. You can repair them instantly at any stop. And in a working economy, you need replacements. That is what keeps the new players from playing, because they can take their place in the economy very easily.
Well, they fixed that place in the economy in a game like SWTOR or WoW that using the same model, which is put new content in. There is a new upper level, there is a new upper tier of gear, so there's always something that you're achieving towards. But like a game like Dark Age of Camelot, I thought hit it right on the head, where it was like, oh, it wears down, you can repair it, but you can only repair it so many times before eventually your ultimate sword of badassness needs to be replaced. You need to go you got to craft a new one. So, I mean, and they were nice to you. I mean, it took you a year of really good use to burn it out, but you got a year's worth of work on it, and then you had to rebuild one. But it gave you
Star Wars
time
Galaxies was very similar too.
Star Wars Galaxies has the best crafting and economy I've ever seen in the game. Period.
It was definitely crazy. I mean, there's a reason why I ran a crafting guild on it.
Okay, so just keeping things moving, Puka, with SWTOR and the new content patch expansion coming out for it, is this something that your community would even look at again?
At the moment, no. We're SWTOR is not even a blip on the radar. Mainly because our community is frankly a fantasy focused. Though we had plenty of members that like sci-fi, we tend to be drawn more to fantasy. But it's not a blip because we have other titles that are much more drawing.
Taco?
We tried a few months ago. Nothing stuck. And I kind of threw it out as an option, and we're like, hey, let's try it for a little bit, but we didn't really gravitate to it too much.
Okay, Malice.
Well, we currently have a band playing over in SWTOR. I think that the only real drawback to the game is that it is dated and it feels dated. It suffers from a lot of dated systems, things that more modern games have moved on from. Like, oh, I've completed this long ass dungeon crawl through this station. I should now be able to port back to the beginning instead of having to walk through all these empty rooms and everything like that just to get out of the stupid dungeon. Um, these are really dated ideas to just spend and spend time. Outside of that, positively, I've so far really enjoyed the content. I enjoy the voice acting. Enjoy the stories, and it's a lot of good memories. And well, it's Star Wars, right? Fuck, it's Star Wars. Yeah.
Star Wars.
Zeb?
I don't think this is on the radar for the community. It depends on when the new patch hits. I'll experiment myself, so I'll try it out and I'll suggest it if I feel it's strong enough to be something the community would be interested in.
Okay. It hits October 22, just so you know.
Okay.
All right, moving on to another game that has what seemingly looks like a pretty decent economy backing it, and that's, as far as I know, really the
Real
only
life
thing.
money.
Yeah, and the real life money that goes into it. Chronicles of Elyria.
Yes, Chronicles of Elyria, a very expansive and interesting game that is doesn't really have a lot of the foundations laid out that are of a game, but they have an amazing list of systems on what it is to experience that game. We know what the experiences are intended to be like. We're just not sure how they will actually play out, and that becomes its own problem.
Yeah, I think COE is just it's a big question mark for a lot of people. That said, the people that are invested currently, I mean, the game is in motion and it has been in motion for years already. So much of COE is going to be simply RP and story building, and carving out your little piece of the world to kind of control and, if you will, puppet master what you want to happen, while also dealing with, the conflicting forces that may come upon that and how you choose to handle them. I think in its essence is what COE is about. I mean, it's a 10-year open and shut book is the idea, and they want to record the ups, the downs, the story, and be able to publish it, and shut it down and move on to another project. It's quite interesting to see an MMO that plans to launch with an end, like they're like a date where the servers are coming down. They're bringing it down.
Yep. No, and that's there have been MMOs in the past, but they are very rare and far in between.
But no, you're
Space,
right.
it was
Go ahead,
Space
man.
Above and Beyond. I think it was literally slated to be a 2 or 3 year game, and that was it. And they wrapped up their story. Thanks for playing. Done. And I'm not against that, because to me, realistically, I feel an MMO has about 5 years in it. After that, you need to wrap up your story, because all you're doing is dragging addicts. You're just dragging people who are addicted to your game.
So I think
better using new technology, new ideas and concepts that you've learned from running the game you have to make the next best game, and run that for 5 years.
Unless, of course, you're EVE Online, which it's all about the player stories. In which case, that's just a game that just keeps chugging along.
So
that's kind of
for the 30,000 players that play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. EverQuest, still has players. UO still has players. I mean, but that doesn't mean it's good or right. Those are people who are addicted to a game concept, and those games could be, while following that exact same niche and concept, become a better game.
But I don't think it is fair at all to criticize a game based off numbers. I mean, ultimately, the success of a game is are you making enough money to keep yourself alive? And that's ultimately the only success that need to be measured, is like if the players are enjoying themselves and enjoying playing the game, then so long as the income that they generate from playing the game keeps the servers online, keeps the devs, and keeps customer support in place, that is a successful game. If that can happen off 300 people, then that is a successful MMO. Now
One of my favorites is a low population MMO, Shadowbane, which introduced whole new concepts into the gaming field.
Well, isn't Shadowbane gone?
It is, and it's
Yeah.
gone. The same company is making Crowfall now.
Right. That's what I thought.
So what do you guys think about economies that have, as Narth puts it, finite resources, and where your in-game currency comes specifically from those resources, to the point that, as he's put on here, you actually have to mint the currency from the ore that you dig out of the earth?
I
I
like it.
mean, if
This
I
is
can
an
make counterfeit,
extremely-
I'd be down for that too.
It is an extremely interesting concept, and it's not one I've seen done
Correctly.
in a digital title. Well, I've just not seen it done, period, incorrectly or correctly whatsoever. You know, coin has always been this arbitrary database entry that we use to give value and access, but creating coin from the raw material, that's a whole different ball game, right? So essentially what you're saying is the raw material has the value. The coin is simply proving the original owner of that raw material. That's all the coin is doing, right? Like we live in a
Welcome to my
world.
job.
Well, sure, but we live in a world and time where like we use notes, right? And the notes originally were meant to represent a backing of a material, right? So our notes represented a backing in gold, but they don't anymore. We know that, nor do many other countries.
Yeah, but capitalism is not based, and our understanding of games right now is based on capitalism. Capitalism is based on trust. It is a
Sure, but an
that-
MMO,
yeah, but an
an
MMO is
MMO
based on the same concepts, Spilka.
Well-
it's not though, because you have
So
a
moving
guarantee
moving
that
into
coin
Chronicles of
always
Elyria,
has
though,
value.
I happen to say that one of the good things that you get from having a system based on finite resources, whatever the specifics are, the finite resources, when they are exhausted and gone, means that there is a raw presentation for PvP. It is absolute. It is, I will go to war to take all your trees, you elf race, because I need lumber and I'm going to murder your whole entire clan on repeat and steal your stuff. And if it just constantly infinitely respawns, I can infinitely steal trees and trees lose value. But when there is a limit, now all of a sudden I own all the trees. It's in the form of lumber, but I own all the trees. So now other people want lumber. Now they're going to go to war with me and come steal my lumber because
Absolutely.
it matters. And it's Arcade did it in a more abstract sense, where it created part of the economy is to go to war. And that is, to me, quintessential if you want a true PvP game.
Okay,
The-
but
the-
let's
the
also
Roman-
throw in the idea of permadeath into this.
You
Does
could
that
be a
change
peon.
that scenario?
You could be a
Not-
peon from Warcraft 3.
Again, not at all. Now a lot of people are turned off by the idea of permadeath, and I think there's some misconceptions that we could take a moment to clear up on COE. That does not mean when your character dies, they die, right? Like
Right.
there's still a spirit walk. Generally speaking, when you buy a soul, which is that $20 investment, whatever, that will last the average player somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6 months. 4 to 6 months is what I've been hearing.
Assuming you
If
don't
you
walk
never-
into a bar and try to shoot people up.
Correct. If you never die whatsoever, that'll last you just shy of a year. If you log in, spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die, it'll last you about 2 months. And that's being a peasant. The people that have higher birth or more responsibility, higher nobility, if they die, that costs them more. So like if a count or if a duke dies, they lose more of their soul, and it's harder for that to be replenished, and it costs them more death. But like being a little peon, like woohoo, like I'm a poop scoop, I'm gonna scoop my poop, like like you could die.
Proof that royalty has no real soul is what you're saying.
You can die all day. But that's a big misconception with the game is people are like, I'm gonna lose my character, I'll never get it again. That's not true. Now your character will eventually die, like the soul burns out, or they die of old age, whatever. And that's where
lineages and families and
well, yeah,
all of
correct. So that's where
systems,
you are given the opportunity to select a new person, because everyone in this game, when the game goes live for the rabble, if you will, we are going to be embodying the souls of NPCs. So these NPCs will exist in the game. They will already have traits pre-done for them. We'll have a little bit of selection over that, but you're just embodying NPCs. And so if you want to have like a blood relation character to fill the shoes of your current main character when you die, then you got to make that kid. And you got to make that kid in the game.
Bow, bow, wow.
Oh my, Puka.
Into that. Well, that's the reality of it. If you want to be a blood, if not, then your new character is just going to be someone else, and you can carry over some skills into that from your main one. But it's like, and I think that's a big turnoff for a lot of people, maybe. But whatever, your character lived, it grew, it died.
Narth, why do you got to kill the mojo? Narth says making kids in COE equals signing a contract.
So
to perform in a hentai show.
It's not much different in real life.
Hey, if your character dies, you don't have to pay child support.
You never know; they could still put that in.
But yeah, and so that's something I think a lot of people are like. They're like, "What about my money and all that? What about my inventory?" Like that mess gets passed on. But you got to set that stuff up.
It's an inheritance.
Right? It doesn't have
Welcome
to be
to my
on.
will.
That could be passed on to somebody else, right? Like if you don't inherit that. If you don't have an inheritance system set up, you could just totally go and embody a completely different person on the other side of the world, with your new soul. You don't have to continue on your bloodline. A lot of people will choose to. Go ahead, Z.
Puka, are you saying that the sins of the father?
Well, family name is going to be, I do believe, a very important
I agree.
thing. And there's right now family name registration happening. I think it's still happening for anybody, but you essentially have to submit your name. Like every family name must be approved, and it has to be submitted, and then they are checking them off.
I just wonder if your
firstborn.
Do they have enough money to continue their plans? That's my biggest concern.
I have no idea. I have that concern with a lot of companies.
Yeah, that's true.
They're over 6 million from crowd sourcing, and then with 6 million, that usually is enough proof of concept to get actual funding from investors. So I can only imagine that they'll wander that path, and they're using Unreal Engine 4. So you could actually get all the assets and things like that. As far as engine goes, pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So,
well, I will say that they seem to be pretty aggressive. Again, they sell. My understanding, they're selling all this access to this hierarchy and investment that you have, because so much of what your role is, like when a player's like, I'm going to be a king. They want somebody that's going to put in the effort to organize a kingdom. And like, for example, our officer in HOL, his highest rank is a count. I'm sorry, a mayor, not a count. They are a horizontal progression, but he is a mayor of a town. And the amount of effort I've seen him putting into this game and just organizing his town, I could not fathom what some of these people that are at the count level, the Duke level, and beyond that, like it blows my mind the amount of effort. And well, it's for people that like to build worlds. This is a world builder, And that's exactly what this is. And they're tearing this out. And for a lot of these people, they are getting their money's worth out of this title. And to be able to build a world how you want it, to set it up, and then to like spin that top and then manage it and let other people enjoy the world you've created and have an experience in your digital world. Like for a lot of people that are hardcore role players, it's like that's the wet dream, right? Like that's the top of the mountain. And
They're
that
basically giving a lot of people a buy into being part of a sim, and then opening the doors to the rabble to play the MMO.
But the players are writing. I mean, they voted on the continents. I mean, they voted on where the kingdoms are. The players are in
Right.
absolute total control over this game development from a story standpoint. And they
Speaking of
kinda,
that, Narth, did we get that town?
is asking, they had to do that because you want the people that are most committed, because these are the people that are going to bring the most stories. And yeah, an easy way of doing that is putting a high price tag, because one, there exist people that'll pay it, and that's just more financing for you. And two, it's like when someone is willing to commit that, when they commit that much financially, it shows an upfront investment that they have in your world. I think that's important.
So, obviously, this is a game that still we don't know a whole lot about as far as mechanics inside and combat, really anything for that. Something that we'll be watching with intense interest on it. Zeb, is this something your community has got any interest in? Is high on your radar? No, not at all.
No, the problem. Puka makes a very elegant explanation of the pay system, but for me, all my players will scream is it's pay to win. So I can't sell them on this.
Okay.
I can't.
Well,
Sell
and
them.
if you would like me to take a minute, I could address that, and I'll give me 30 seconds, and I'll say this much:
30 seconds. You think it's possible?
Absolutely. Time it. What people are purchasing now is the ability to set up the starting line. Once players get their hands in the world, they have no control in stopping players from usurping the roles that they paid for. So someone who starts the game as a king most likely will not finish the game as the king unless they work really hard to keep that.
Pay to win is only a flaw when you get to keep that item no matter what. So Arcage, for example, if I swipe and I get the best weapon on the server and there's nothing you can ever do about it, that's dumb.
And I had
you
the same
swipe
vibe.
and become a king, and then I come over and stab you in the face repeatedly until I'm king, well, then it's not really pay to win.
Well, I had the same vibe when I saw wagons, when I saw like horses and stuff, and I'm like, why are they allowed to sell this stuff? And I'm like, because it can all be destroyed. What you're doing is you're only building this initial world. You're opening your theme park. You're like, come on, guys, look at all this cool stuff. Look at all these toys I have. Don't you want to play with them? Like that's where they're allowing people to do that, want to do that. But the reality is, like, once the rabble gets in the game and they start off at horses and whatnot, yeah, they're gonna break the toys, and you can't fix a dead horse.
All right, Malice.
So that's the reality.
Plague.
We definitely have a faction of people who are interested. Narthesis is our bought-in mayor. He is working on Plagueville, so we shall see how that goes. We'll see when the game launches, too. It is kind of a second-tier game because, well, we have Star Citizen and we have Camels Unchained, but I have a feeling that Chronicles of Elyria is something that's going to be coming out a year or two after that. Because we really need a combat system. As I said, if you're going to have finite resources, you're creating war. If you don't have a good war system, then it's going to be a dead game.
Taco?
It's not really on our radar right now. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of these crowd-funded MMOs, they were funded around the same time, like within a year or two apart from each other. And they're going to start coming out around the same time. And realistically, how many MMOs can you play? And you gotta pick winners.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and that's the problem with Star Citizen and Camel Unchained coming out near themselves. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, I'm having that same issue.
It's definitely on our radar. In my ideal world, Camelot Unchained launches at the end of next year. Um, that would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's my ideal world. Um, and then this game follows, hopefully a year or two after that. I do see this game launching conflicting with Star Citizen launch. I do not believe this game will conflict with Camelot Unchained's launch, which is why it's on our radar in the first place.
Gotcha.
Oh, so you think Chronicles of Elyria is going to launch in 2034 with
Yeah, probably 2034, 2035.
Is
Yeah,
horrible.
I'll be, my kids they'll be high school by then, and it's like, we'll love Star Citizen. They'll be ready to go. And COE, it'll probably be ready to kick off that story, and they'll be prepped. No, I think it's. I would love to see more from a mechanical standpoint. You look at screenshots, and it's easy to throw assets into an engine. Um, things in motion really tell a lot from a game. So looking at things in motion is the real tell, and I would love to see this game get 2-3 more years of development.
Gotcha.
Which is
what
what
I'm
I'm
about to walk through a static town is that's I can literally open Unreal and in
whip up
2
Unreal and do
days
that in a
whip up
minute.
vets.
Sure. But the creation of assets is a real hefty load.
We
But
can
the
buy
interaction with that,
assets from Unreal.
well, and I cannot speak to what they create, what they pay for, what they
Of
outsource.
course. But that's
Yeah,
what like Ash of the Creations lived on was here, look at this awesome game we built. Oh wait, none of this is actually anything we made. We just went on the Unreal shop and bought a bunch of assets.
Yeah, that's another stream, isn't it?
All right. So we'll move on. We're kind of at our time limit here. Next week, thank you everybody for tuning in. Next week, Tuesday, don't forget we've got
I just typed that too.
So that is the MMO grind with Malice and Puka that you will see on Tuesdays. The time will be on the closing slide for the stream. Check them out. You will start seeing developers on the stream. You will see some random people from all over the world and all different roles when it comes to gaming as they talk about and dive into stuff.
Specific details, yep. Yeah, we got some very upcoming personalities and some new stuff on some new game launches that are coming out. So
we're gonna have Tom Hanks on our next show.
Oh yeah, definitely Tom Hanks.
Yeah, he's gonna be there talking about his work of COE. I think he's a king. So yeah, tune in.
So watch for that on Tuesdays. Another stream that has just being announced now. The time will be announced weekly on Wednesdays. It will jump around to try to hit different time zones and different people in and out of work and that kind of stuff. And here's the intro for that. That will be a solo stream done by myself. I will have guests on every now and then. We'll also have an open mic where we will talk about you, your guilds, any problems that you have, and the idea of leadership and what does it mean to actually be successful within your roles as leaders within your community. So again, that one, watch for the announcement on that on Wednesdays. And we'll see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks. See you later.